Developing right now on Morning News Now, blockade blowback. This morning, U.S. warships on patrol near the Strait of Hormuz. They're trying to keep vessels from coming in or out of Iranian ports and force a peace deal by cutting off the country's oil exports. The partial blockade sparking protests across Tehran over what the government is calling an act of piracy.
Iran is doing absolutely no business, and we're going to keep it that way very easily. Don't forget, their Navy is gone, their Air Force is gone, their anti-aircraft is gone, their radar is gone, and their leaders are gone.
The situation overseas also impacting us here at home, from the gas pump to Wall Street, plus the conflict causing conflict between President Trump and the Pope. We will bring you the latest. Also this morning, embattled California Congressman Eric Swalwell now stepping down from the House just one day after ending his campaign for governor. Now a House committee opening an investigation into allegations of sexual assault. Well, another congressman is abruptly retiring. We'll have an update as the fallout grows. Plus, a new hope for people with Parkinson's disease and their families. We'll show you the new technology that could change millions of lives. And a W for the W. That's right, the future of women's basketball has arrived. We're going to have highlights from last night's historic WNBA draft as the league enters a new era, how a new record-breaking contract is about to change the game when it comes to pay. Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is off. We begin this Tuesday morning with the latest out of the Middle East, nearly 24 hours into the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports. Now, initially, President Trump threatened to block all ships traveling through the Strait of Hormuz. Then the U.S. military clarified it would only block Iranian ports in that critical shipping route. Well, this morning, a Chinese tanker was one of the first of two U.S.-sanctioned ships to pass through the strait since this blockade began. Beijing issued its most forceful criticism yet of the U.S. action in Iran. It's calling the blockade dangerous and irresponsible. And Iran's armed forces accused America of piracy. The global economy is trying to make sense of President Trump's latest negotiating tactic, with stock prices rallying yesterday and oil prices dipping overnight. Still, though, traffic through the Strait of Hormuz remains at a near standstill. We have a team of correspondents joining us from overseas and here at home with the latest on the ceasefire deal and the war's ongoing political and economic impact. First, let's go to NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley in Tel Aviv. Matt, good morning. So after 24 hours, what's this blockade of Iranian ports doing to traffic in the strait? And how is China, which does count heavily on the oil there, responding?
Yeah, well, China blasted that decision by the U.S., calling it a reversion to the law of the jungle, or reverting to the law of the jungle, as you said. China is one of the few countries that still purchases Iranian oil, and it's a major way for China to access much-needed oil for its economy, which is always growing. One of the real complications here is the hypocrisy, and this is one of the things that the Iranians have been pointing out, as well as the Chinese, that the U.S. is actually going to be adding more economic pain to the world, already suffering from the blockage of the Strait of Hormuz by the Iranians, now another blockade by the Americans. Interestingly, when we talk about oil, it is a globally traded commodity. So even though this new blockade from the United States side is only going to be presumably blocking oil or any other goods going to and from Iranian ports, just blocking Iran from benefiting from its oil also means that it's limiting the supply of oil, of Iranian oil, on the global stage, which means that the global price of oil will be affected negatively. That means that President Trump's method to try to force Iran to unblock the Strait of Hormuz in order to free up global trade could actually make oil more expensive and snarl global trade even more.
So, Matt, President Trump did announce this blockade after the U.S. and Iran failed to reach a long-term ceasefire deal over the weekend during those peace talks in Pakistan. We have to remember, though, the two-week ceasefire is still in place. It's set to expire next week, a week from tomorrow. So do we know what's next for the negotiations?
Yeah, we have been hearing from various sides of these negotiations that there are plans to meet again, or at least to continue these discussions. Remember, as you mentioned, this was all about actually extending the ceasefire that, in theory, was still in place and that, in theory, remains in place. But part of the complication here is that that ceasefire itself is fraying. one of the real issues that's really coming up here is the question of Lebanon. Now, remember that from just a couple of days ago. The Pakistanis who had been mediating these negotiations insisted that Lebanon would be part of this ceasefire, that Israel was going to be expected to stop its offensive against Hezbollah in Lebanon. And then we heard from the Israelis saying that no, as a matter of fact, Lebanon is a separate case and we're going to continue our offensive in Lebanon. But that is a big issue because today we're actually seeing, really for the first time in recent memory, direct negotiations between Lebanese officials and Israeli officials, this time in Washington, D.C. It's low-level negotiations, basically between Israel's ambassador to Washington and Lebanon's ambassador to Washington. But it's a real sign that these two countries are coming together and discussing. The problem is, Hezbollah isn't controlled by the Lebanese government. As long as the conflict in Lebanon continues, we can expect that there's going to be major instability to that ceasefire between Israel and the U.S. on one side and Iran on the other.
All right, Matt Bradley reporting in Tel Aviv. Matt, thank you so much. Let's bring in NBC News business and economy reporter Ali Canal to discuss the ongoing economic impact of all of this. It's fair to say a roller coaster in these oil prices. Help us understand why the up and then the down. Where do things stand right now?
Traders are reacting to these headlines in real time, whether or not it's a blockade, a ceasefire, or a Chinese tanker getting through. A question in the minds of these traders is this going to be a contained shock to supply, a one-time impact here, or is this going to be a more sustained issue down the line? So we're seeing traders really wrestle with this question, considering how important the Strait of Hormuz is when we look at the global oil market, like Matt was just laying out. So until there's serious resolution to this war, or until we get more clarity about reopening the strait and getting that supply back on the market, you're going to see the back and forth when it comes to these oil prices.
So that's the issue the traders are worried about, but everyone who's just filling up their tank when they go to the gas station right now, they're worried about gas prices. We know they've gone up so much already in the last few weeks. Is what's happening here is have the potential to slow down how quickly those prices go up, or what might happen here?
Short answer is not really. We still have gas trading significantly above $4 a gallon. That's a psychologically important level when we think about affordability. Now, if we look back to pre-war, gas was trading below $3 a gallon nationally. And the reason why is oil prices. Even though we've come down a little bit on the price of oil, we're still close to trading around $100 a barrel. Pre-Iran war, we were trading closer to $67 a barrel. So we still need a significant decline in oil prices for that to impact gas prices. And remember, it's not just gas. Oil also affects the cost of diesel, which impacts shipping, air travel, even food prices. So this is hitting consumers on multiple fronts.
Let's talk about the volatility on Wall Street. Yesterday morning, we were looking at stock prices down, but then they ended up performing pretty well. We're actually almost back to where we were before the war started. What was it that happened yesterday? How are things shaping up today?
Yeah, stocks finished the day really strong. You have the S&P 500 erasing all its war-related losses tied to Iran. It's actually positive on the year right now. And this comes as those oil prices remain elevated. Even in futures trading, we're up a little bit, slightly mixed. But my sources on Wall Street tell me that this boils down to a few things. One, this isn't a worst-case scenario. Investors were bracing for direct hits on Iran's energy infrastructure. Remember, it wasn't that long ago that President Trump was threatening to eliminate an entire civilization. So that was the worst case scenario. So this blockade, while it's disruptive, it's not the worst case for investors. Number two, we've seen this playbook before, whether you look back to the COVID pandemic, Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Investors tend to look past a lot of these geopolitical turmoil because they're constantly looking into the future. They're not just pricing what's happening now, they're very much forward looking. So at least if you look at the markets, they're looking through this and thinking we're going to get to the end of the tunnel here and that things will improve. And then finally, this is a big one, earnings. Earnings are still strong. Analysts still have high expectations. So until we see that direct hit to profit, I don't think you're going to see a deterioration in the stock market because earnings ultimately is what powers stocks higher. So a lot of things at play. It's a little counterintuitive, a little bit confusing, but investors are really hoping that we're going to see a resolution at some point headlines soon.
And the bottom line is, even this week alone, Iran's not the only thing investors are looking at. There's a lot of information coming out and a lot that's shaping our economy.
Yes, an earnings season just kicking off. There's a lot of economic data that we continue to parse through. So this is one element in a lot of different things that investors have their minds on.
All right, Allie Canal, good to have you with us. Thank you. Now, the war has sparked an unlikely feud between the president and the Pope. Now, President Trump is refusing to apologize for his extraordinary social media attack against Pope Leo. It's become a flashpoint for the president, causing even some of his strongest supporters to turn against him. The tirade, in apparent response to the Pope's anti-Iran war stance, sparked rebuke by some world leaders and members of the Catholic Church. The president then doubled down yesterday, saying the pontiff was wrong. The Pope is currently in Algeria as part of his Africa tour. He said he will continue to speak out against war and did so during his speech there yesterday.
By respecting the dignity of everyone and allowing yourselves to be moved by the pain of others, instead of multiplying misunderstandings and conflicts, you can surely become protagonists of a new chapter in history. Today, this is more urgent than ever in the face of continuous violations of international law and neo-colonial tendencies.
The Pope will continue his tour of Africa, walking in the footsteps of the founder of his religious order, St. Augustine, and celebrating Mass later today. A pair of lawmakers from both sides of the aisle are stepping down after backlash over sexual misconduct allegations. Embattled Republican Representative Tony Gonzalez says he plans to retire from Congress today. The Texas congressman announced the move in a post on X yesterday, saying there is a season for everything. Gonzalez was under investigation by the House Ethics Committee after he admitted to having an affair with a former senior aide in his office. She later died by suicide. His announcement came shortly after Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell said he will resign. He's facing sexual assault and misconduct claims, which just a day earlier forced him to end his bid for California governor. We get the latest from NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles.
Facing the threat of a pending House Ethics Committee investigation and expulsion, embattled Congressman Eric Swalwell says he will leave office, answering the call from a wide swath of both Republicans and Democrats urging him to step down following allegations of sexual assault and misconduct. Swalwell continuing to deny many of the allegations, calling them false, but adding, "I must take responsibility and ownership for the mistakes I did make." The California Democrat also made note of the plans to potentially kick him out of office. Expelling anyone in Congress without due process within days of an allegation being made is wrong, Swalwell said in a statement, but adding he knew it was time for him to go. It's also wrong for constituents to have me distracted from duties. Therefore, I plan to resign my seat in Congress. Swalwell was a leading candidate for governor of California.
The next governor has to be a fighter protector for all Californians.
But suspended his campaign in response to the backlash. His resignation will end the threat of a congressional probe, but he is still facing the possibility of a criminal investigation in New York, where one of the alleged incidents took place. Multiple women have accused Swalwell of sexual misconduct and assault. One woman telling the San Francisco Chronicle that she had several sexual encounters with the congressman while working in his office. She also accused him of sexually assaulting her twice while she was too intoxicated to consent. NBC News has not verified her allegations, but it confirmed her identity and that she worked for Swalwell from 2019 until 2021. This accuser sharing her story with CNN.
He said to me, "You're right. It's probably not good for a congressman to be caught with his pants down."
Ryan Nobles, NBC News.
Beyond those resignations, lawmakers are back in session in Washington with a lot on their plates this week. They're gearing up to tackle a growing list of major policy battles, including an end to the partial government shutdown. Congress still does need to reach a deal to fund the Department of Homeland Security, which has been shuttered now for a record 59 days. Also on the agenda, a potential vote to curb President Trump's authority when it comes to taking further military action against Iran. Let's break it down with NBC News senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor, who joins us now. Sahil, good morning. So before they left for that 2-week recess, lawmakers had tabled 2 competing DHS funding bills, hoping to end the partial government shutdown. Republicans were even fighting among themselves over how to move forward. So right now, where do things stand?
Well, Joe, today marks 2 months to the day that DHS was shut down, a record-long government shutdown. And remember, this is all because of a stalemate over immigration enforcement operations. Democrats won't fund ICE and the Border Patrol without reining them in terms of what they can do with mass deportations and raids, and Republicans are refusing to grant those concessions. So what now? Republican leaders have finally settled on a path forward after clashing amongst themselves. What they plan to do is fund all of DHS without ICE and CBP through the normal appropriations process and pursue a separate party line bill through the budget reconciliation process, which can bypass the filibuster to fund ICE and CBP without any Democratic support. And Democrats in this case are not going to get any of the reforms and the concessions they want either, even some of the more minor ones that the White House had sort of indicated that they would be interested in. Now, the timeline is an issue here because House Republicans are still angry that the Senate, in their view, is jamming them. What they plan to do is wait for the Senate to pass at least a budget resolution, which is the blueprint to begin work on this piece of legislation, and then the House can take up the Senate-passed DHS bill. Still a number of steps to get there, so it might not happen for a couple of weeks. And meanwhile, DHS still shut down. Paychecks, some of them have come because of an executive order by President Trump, but it's not clear how much longer.
Of course, we know those paychecks going to those TSA workers, which has been helping at the airports over the last week or so. Sahil, what else are you watching for on Capitol Hill right now?
A couple of things. One big thing coming up later this week is a war powers vote on ending the Iran war. Senate Democrats plan to force this, I'm told, either this Wednesday or Thursday. They need a simple majority in the Senate to pass it. It's going to be an interesting vote in terms of where Republicans stand. Has there been any movement among GOP senators as the war continues to be very unpopular, in fact, grows more unpopular in some recent polls? There's also the question of FISA, Section 702. It's expiring in about a week. That's the law allowing the government to conduct warrantless surveillance of foreigners living abroad. This is a perennial fight between proponents of the law who want to reauthorize it each year as is, and other lawmakers who want privacy protections, who say this enables the government inevitably to sweep up some data on Americans. And finally, there was the question of House expulsions. Eric Swalwell and Tony Gonzalez were at the top of the list. There are others as well who are in some hot water and have ethical challenges. That one might be extinguished at least somewhat by the fact that these two men have agreed to willingly resign. Still unclear, Joe, when exactly they're going to quit. Neither Swalwell nor Gonzalez said in their statements what day is going to be their last in the House of Representatives.
Sahil, while we have you, let's turn back to the White House. A moment ago, we talked a bit about the president's clash with the Pope. That's sort of a big picture debate over the war in Iran. But there's also now this now deleted religious-themed post from the president's social media page. It's creating controversy. It featured an AI image that appeared to depict him as like a Christ-like savior. The post has been widely condemned, including from some conservatives. On top of that, 9,000 users on Truth Social like to comment, calling on the president to take it down and, quote, offer an apology to Christians for this mockery. So with all that said, what's the president saying about all this controversy?
Well, first off, the president is admitting he posted this. This, of course, got quite a bit of criticism from the right, including from some of Trump's usual prominent allies who said it was inappropriate to mock God in this manner, that maybe he should show some humility. Here's what Trump said after he deleted the post. Take a listen.
It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor, and had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support. And only the fake news could come up with that one.
As it happens, it wasn't just the media. It was also Republican senators who usually support Trump who found this highly inappropriate. There's Senator John Curtis, the Utah Republican, who called it offensive, called it blasphemous, who called it inappropriate and said there's no reason to go there. Senator Josh Hawley, who I spoke to, said it was wise of the president to take this down. He said, quote, "In my view, there's only one Jesus," end quote. Joe?
All right. If you're going to claim it's a doctor, at least make a stethoscope or something that makes it look like a doctor's there. All right, Sahil, thank you so much. Appreciate your reporting. A suspect is in custody in connection with the Molotov cocktail attack on the home of OpenAI CEO Sam Altman. The suspect is now facing a charge of attempted murder. NBC News correspondent Morgan Chesky has the details from California.
Authorities say these surveillance images capture suspect Daniel Moreno Gama. Clutching a flaming Molotov cocktail, he's accused of hurling at the California home of OpenAI CEO Sam Altman.
This was not spontaneous. This was planned, targeted, and extremely serious.
Federal agents raiding a home outside Houston early this morning where the FBI says Moreno Gamma lived. He's now charged with attempted murder and possession of a deadly weapon. Authorities say the 20-year-old traveled from Texas to California and launched his attack on Altman's residence around 3:37 a.m. last Friday, catching a driveway gate on fire. The criminal complaint going further, sharing he then traveled to OpenAI's San Francisco headquarters where around 5 a.m., Moreno Gamma retrieved a chair and used it to strike the glass doors, and according to security personnel on site, stated he was there to burn it down and kill anyone inside. Altman, the head of one of the world's most influential artificial intelligence companies, posted this image of his family, stating he hopes it might dissuade the next person from throwing a Molotov cocktail at our house, no matter what they think about me. Police arresting the suspect at OpenAI's headquarters, where investigators say he had a multi-page document espousing views that opposed artificial intelligence, as well as multiple executives at AI companies. Morgan Chesky, NBC News.
All right, time now for a check on your morning news now weather. Millions are facing a severe weather risk today. Meteorologist Angie Lastman is here with the latest. So I can't turn off the heat in my building yet, and we don't have the air yet. So I'm strategizing like fans or
any way to keep cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the case for a lot of folks across, much of the country, Joe, where we're dealing with these potentially record highs. And we've also got some severe weather to talk about. 'Tis the season for all of this. So let's start with the severe weather, where we've got this big batch of moisture kind of just sliding across the Great Lakes. Most of the heaviest of the rain is out into Canada. But again, looking back to Chicago, you've had quite an active morning, some thunderstorms there. You can see plenty of lightning working across Michigan earlier today. And this is going to be kind of working its way to the east through the day today. But we're really going to be keeping an eye on this frontal system that's stretching all the way from New England down to New Mexico. This is going to help us ramp up those thunderstorms later this afternoon and into the evening hours for a good chunk of the country. Notice that we have that broader slight risk stretching from Texas all the way into the Great Lakes. But we've also got this enhanced risk that is centered right around Cedar Rapids and Chicago. That means that the hail, a couple of strong tornadoes, and those strong wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour are going to be possible for that area. It's going to be afternoon and evening kind of timing for you. And then we continue this multi-day severe weather threat as we get into tomorrow as well. Some thunderstorms in the morning across the Great Lakes. And then again, we ramp up that activity into the afternoon and early evening hours for a larger chunk of the country, stretching again from the Midwest all the way back to Texas. We've got Oklahoma City, Kansas City, and Chicago included in that. All the threats on the table. It looks like hail will be our main threat, but keeping an eye on that, including the wind gusts and the tornadoes as well. Now, we've also got some fire alerts. So this is centered across parts of the middle of the country. We've got the really warm conditions, we've got the dry conditions, and we've really got gusty winds up to 45 miles per hour. So notice we've got those red flag warnings and fire weather advisories up at this time. Speaking of those warm temperatures, here's what we're talking about. We've got a lot of potential records today. A lot of folks, just broadly speaking, ending up into the 80s. This is that warm weather that so many people were hoping for, but maybe not quite as warm as what we're going to get. We've got upper 80s across the Northeast. Norfolk heads to 89 degrees. They'll flirt with the potential record that they have for this date of 90 degrees. We've got upper 80s across Nashville, potentially a record in Cincinnati. We'll see Peoria as well into the mid 80s. So you get the picture. It's going to be hot. It's going to be this way at least for the next couple of days as well. 90s on tap, actually, for Wednesday and Thursday in Washington, D.C. You get a little bit of a cool down, I guess, on Friday as you enter into those mid-80s. But it's 90s for Raleigh, for Roanoke, upper 80s for Cincinnati. Pittsburgh tops out into those mid-80s as well as we get through Wednesday. So it's a warm one over the next couple of days. And even Nashville, you end up into the 90s on Friday. So a bit of that warm air. We've got the severe weather. We've got the fire weather. Honestly, it's all on the table except for snow at this point.
Right. Or spring, I guess, for the East Coast right now.
Right over some spots.
It'll probably snow next week, though. You never know. Right, Angie,
you never know.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Of course.
More to come here on Morning News Now later this hour. No place to call home. The White House now offering a blueprint to try and fix the country's critical housing shortage. More on the problem and that proposal. Up first after the break, the husband of an American woman missing in the Bahamas, now out from behind bars. We're going to have the latest next. Stay with us. Welcome back. The husband of an American woman who vanished over a week ago in the Bahamas is out of jail this morning. He was released from police custody on Monday, but authorities say he is still considered a suspect in his wife's disappearance after she allegedly fell out of a boat. NBC's Jesse Kirsch has the latest from the Bahamas.
Brian, anything to say?
Brian Hooker is now a free man. Authorities releasing him after a legal deadline to charge him expired. His attorney telling us investigators questioned him again about the night he says his wife Lynette fell from their dinghy.
If he was released,
yes,
could he leave the country or would he automatically have to stay?
he could leave as long as they have not told him that he has to remain in the country. But at this point in time, the fact that he's concerned about his wife, I doubt he would want to leave.
Authorities have been searching for Lynette Hooker for over a week. Meanwhile, newly revealed text messages shared by fellow boater Marnie Stevenson and obtained by CBS News now appearing to shed light on the Hookers' marriage. Lynette texting Stevenson in 2024, "We decided to call it quits. I'm not going back." Later writing of their life on the water, "It was real bad. I can't be out there with him." And Stevenson's husband Blaine telling NBC News Brian Hooker sent him these maps after Lynette vanished. The maps appear to trace the Hookers' boat ride. Here's the alleged spot where Brian told investigators Lynette went overboard. And here's where Brian paddled next. Brian Hooker's attorney says she cannot confirm the map's authenticity. The Marsh Harbor Boatyard says a security camera spotted Brian Hooker's silhouette around 3:47 a.m. Easter Sunday. That timeline matches the initial police report. The Boatyard would not share the video, but says Hooker arrived on foot and called for help.
Our thanks to Jesse for that report. The police commissioner says investigators will continue searching for Lynette Hooker for as long as possible. There are also new developments in the investigation into the murder of an 18-year-old woman aboard a cruise ship last November. The U.S. Attorney's Office has indicted Anna Kepner's 16-year-old stepbrother in her death. In the indictment, he's referred to as TH because he's still a minor. The teen suspect has been charged with federal murder and aggravated sexual abuse. He was released into the custody of a guardian and not his parents after he was charged. Prosecutors say they plan to try him as an adult. More developing news now. An investigation into a deadly stabbing at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class in the UK. Well, says the attack could have been prevented. NBC's Matt Bodner joins us now to take us around the world in 60 seconds. Matt, good morning.
Joe, good morning. A new report has found that a 2024 mass stabbing event in a UK school, quote, could and should have been prevented. The report examined an attack by a British teenager who killed 3 girls and wounded 10 other people at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class. The report found both the parents and the state should have acted on a well-known fixation with violence, which escalated over time. Moving along now to Colombia, officials this week signed off on a plan to euthanize dozens of so-called cocaine hippos, which roam freely through part of central Colombia. Hippos are not native to South America. Colombia is actually the only nation outside of Africa with wild hippos. These nearly 200 or so hippos are descendants of 4 that Pablo Escobar imported in the 80s for his private zoo. And we'll wrap up this hour in Thailand, where the Songkran Festival has officially kicked off. This is the official celebration of the Thai New Year. Participants spray water at each other to celebrate, and the water signifies cleansing and good fortune. Happy Thai New Year. Back to you.
All right. If I could, I would spray you with water right now, Matt. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Coming up on Morning News Now, potentially life-changing treatment for patients with Parkinson's disease.
What's one part of your life that it's brought back that you didn't have before that you're most grateful for?
Probably having the capacity and want to cook for my family.
We're going to show you the technology that's offering hope for millions of people. Stay with us. We are back with a new technology that's giving hope to people with Parkinson's disease. It's called adaptive deep brain stimulation. Doctors implant a small device in the brain to help patients better control their motor skills from their phone. NBC News medical contributor Dr. Akshay Syal shows us how it works.
At 35 years old, Jessica Krauser seemed to have it all. A successful marketing career and a beautiful family. But she was slowly noticing something wasn't right.
I just started having like a tremor in my hand. I remember being at church one time and my kids were little and they grabbed my hand. They're like, "It's okay, Mom, you don't have to be nervous." And I was like, "No, I'm not nervous."
Over the next 2 years, her symptoms got worse.
I started getting a lot of cramping like in my calf muscle and in my foot and my toes, and like I couldn't separate my toes, and they would curl, and people started pointing things out to me. They're like, is your foot okay?
So it was to the point where other people were noticing.
Mm-hmm.
Then, Jessica got the diagnosis that would change her life forever. Early onset Parkinson's disease at just 37 years old.
I did have some hard moments. I mean, I would like break down and like cry either at the gym or on my way home because I was like, this is my life now. Like, and what is it going to look like in 6 months or a year?
Parkinson's is a progressive brain disease that causes problems with movement and balance. And it happens when neurons in the brain that produce dopamine start to die off. It usually strikes people in their 60s or 70s, but just 2% of people are like Jessica, diagnosed before age 40.
It's a little bit difficult to diagnose because at that age, people aren't thinking about Parkinson's, and they might say that, oh, someone just is stressed out or has anxiety, and it gets missed for a while.
Dr. Richard Ramo is a neurosurgeon at the Cleveland Clinic and Jessica's doctor. He says most patients start treatment with medication that mimics dopamine, but it only works well for a few years.
Usually about 3 to 5 years after, and that's when we'd consider them for surgery.
Called deep brain stimulation, or DBS. The minimally invasive surgery involves implanting 2 electrodes in the brain that act like a pacemaker, sending pulses of electricity to disrupt faulty brain signals that cause symptoms. DBS has been around for years, but there's a new, FDA-approved device called adaptive DBS. In the past, the stimulation would be set at a specific level that couldn't really change no matter how mild or severe the symptoms are throughout the day or night. The new device allows it to adapt to the levels needed in real time, which Dr. Ramos says is a game changer.
When the signals for Parkinson's are high, it will increase the stimulation and kind of match the patient's symptoms.
As scary as it sounds, Jessica was ready.
So by the afternoon, I'm like twisting my arm and my legs moving around, and it's like going crazy because then I'd be on camera and I'd be like moving all around, and I'd shut my camera off sometimes because I'm like, I can't even watch myself.
Now, about 8 months after her surgery, Jessica has gone from this to this. She says it's been life-changing.
What's one part of your life that it's brought back that you didn't have before that you're most grateful for?
Probably having the capacity and want to cook for my family. That's how I show love to family and friends. It was really difficult cutting things or chopping, like as you're like dyskinetic and moving all around. Now I get to do that almost every day.
Dr. Akshay Sayal, NBC News.
A new storefront is making headlines this morning for being unlike any other in the world. On the surface, it looks like a boutique selling books and gifts. But this San Francisco hotspot was designed, staffed, and now run by AI. Reporter Scott Budman from our NBC Bay Area station gives us an inside look at the retailer that is redefining the consumer experience.
Walking into the Andon Market feels like a regular store at first, but this store at the corner of Union and Webster in San Francisco's Cow Hollow neighborhood is something new, right down to the choice of music.
So AI did pick the music? AI did pick the music, yes.
This store was created by an AI bot.
We are heading into a world where AIs are the boss of humans.
So much so, the AI boss, in this case a bot called Luna, made the decision to hire a human employee. That would be Felix.
Luna put out an ad on Indeed. I answered it, and we talked via Zoom.
She even picked the merchandise to sell. Really, her creators, a local company called Andon Labs, let her pick.
Actually, when I walked in here the first day, I was like, oh, those are interesting items. I have no clue.
Because you didn't plan it yourself?
No, it was all AI.
I got about 2 questions in, and then I said, am I going to talk to a human at all? Just curious. She said no.
So we asked her directly.
Hi, is this Luna?
Yes, this is Luna. What's up?
Why let AI run the store?
As an AI, I can operate at superhuman speed to make sure everything is proactively managed.
With little to no need for humans.
So if you want to buy something, you just walk up, grab it, take it to the front of the store, and you don't even have to deal with Felix, no offense.
What you do is you actually pick up the phone and talk to Luna.
Just tell her what you want to buy. She charges you. You pay. Pretty simple.
How is that compared to a regular store?
Very interesting. It feels weird. What's the price?
A very real transaction involving an almost unreal technology. In San Francisco, Scott Budman, NBC Bay Area News.
And then the phone looks like the one from my childhood bedroom. So that's a strange mix of all the technologies there. All right, coming up on Morning News Now, security experts sounding the alarm on a social media scam.
I was like, that was probably one of those scamming accounts using my name.
Is this a case of mistaken identity?
Oh, yes, 100%.
When we come back, how bad actors are looking to take advantage of some of the influencer industry. Plus, what we're learning about a data breach involving one of the top travel websites. Ali Canal is back with your Money Minute after the break. Welcome back. If you're looking to buy something online, specifically from popular social media apps, security experts have a new warning for you. Verify the source. A new wave of bad actors is now pretending to be influencers online. Their goal is not to influence you, but to steal your hard-earned cash. NBC News chief consumer investigative correspondent Vicky Nguyen spoke to one creator who says he was arrested after a scammer used his likeness for a fraudulent transaction.
This is a very, very sick watch.
We have a new challenger for the Vucom Challenge.
How much? 2018, I want 30,000.
Online, he's known by millions of followers as Vucom.
Guys, we've done over $30 million in sales on eBay Live.
In real life, or IRL, he's 25-year-old Tyler McCorsky, an influencer who started buying and selling watches in 2018 in person.
The first 2 watches I ever sold in my life was this watch right here.
But he says the real money is made online through social media and his eBay Live auctions.
I could sell a watch for $4,000. I could sell a watch for $250,000. Once I started posting videos, I hit a completely different crowd, specifically younger people, 16-year-olds up to like 25-year-olds.
You tapped into a whole new market.
I like to think so, yeah.
It's big money that's lured some big problems. McCorsky says he's constantly reporting bogus accounts that rip off his name and use his videos to scam unsuspecting buyers. Those scammers wound up victimizing McCorsky in a way he never imagined. In March, as he boarded a plane to the Bahamas for a family vacation, he was arrested by Port Authority police at Newark Airport.
It felt like a fever dream, to be honest with you. I was very just confused. I was like, what the hell is going on?
He says officers told him he was wanted on a Florida warrant for grand larceny. According to this affidavit, a 65-year-old man reported he bought a $6,000 watch from McCorsky via Facebook, wired money to a bank account with a different name, Anne Marie Martin, and never got the watch.
Kind of put 2 and 2 together, and I was like, that was probably one of those scamming accounts using my name.
Is this a case of mistaken identity?
Oh, yes, 100%.
NBC News spoke with the man who was scammed. He asked us not to use his name, but said this person's website looked 100% absolutely legitimate, and I fell for it. McCorsky says he was held in jail for 3 days. The Claremont Police Department declined to be interviewed, but say they determined Mr. McCorsky was indeed the victim of an apparent identity theft scam. NBC News obtained these documents showing the case against McCorsky has been closed.
So these kinds of fraud schemes are not uncommon.
Mark Rash is a threat intelligence investigator who used to prosecute computer crimes for the government.
How did law enforcement get this so wrong?
It's not hard to get it wrong because, remember, these are fraudsters. Fraudsters are impersonating somebody else. The real problem here is that local police particularly are not used to investigating them.
And he says social media companies should step up their security to ban scammers. In a statement, Meta told us in part, we have removed the imposter accounts. We are continuing to investigate this case, and we will take action as we find any further violations.
They could have just went the extra step to verify that I was the one that committed the crime.
As for McCorsky, he's trying to get back to business, continuing to warn his followers about these imposter scams.
Either come see me in person, where you could come and shake my hand and grab my shoulder, or go on eBay Live.
Vicky Nguyen, NBC News.
Now to some money headlines. A new White House report says the U.S. housing shortage is up by the millions. NBC News business and economy reporter Allie Canal is here with your Money Minute. Allie, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Yes, a pretty stark warning here from the White House. Now, economists on the president's Council of Economic Advisors say the U.S. is short at least 10 million single-family homes after building declined following the 2008 housing crash. They say if construction had kept up with historical trends, that gap wouldn't exist. So bottom line, we never caught up, and that shortage is still driving the affordability crisis today. And over in travel, a security warning from Booking.com. According to multiple reports, the company says hackers may have accessed customer data, including names, contact info, and reservation details, but says that financial information was not stolen. Customers are being urged to watch for phishing scams, as that data could be used to send very convincing fake messages. NBC News has reached out to Booking.com for comment. And from hotels to the skies, a premium push. Delta Airlines is rolling out a new version of its business class Delta One suites, featuring longer lie-flat beds, more personal space, and get this, a do not disturb button. It's the first major update to the Delta One suite in nearly a decade. The move comes as airlines double down on high-end travel, which is driving a growing share of their profits. And it's interesting, Joe, we talk a lot about the affordability crisis, the haves and the have-nots, but those higher-income consumers, they're still spending.
Yes.
They want to spend on those premium experiences. If you can afford it, why not?
Which is hard because those are very expensive.
Very expensive.
I like the do not disturb button. It's like basically a hotel room now.
That seems to be what all these premium economies see, what they're pushing towards.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I'm like, can't we get the regular economy to open up a little
bit?
bit?
It actually is the size of a New York hotel room.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, Allie. Appreciate it. Now to this year's hotly anticipated WNBA draft. A brand new class of rookies welcomed into the league last night at the Shed right here in New York City. It's where the top women's basketball players in the country gathered to see where the game would take them next. And the night brought a few surprises and some history-making picks. For more on this, let's bring in Kavitha Davidson. She is a sports writer and host of the podcast Sport League. Kavitha, good to have you with us. So, of course, we have to start with AZ Fudd, #1 overall pick, hailing from UConn. Tell us how she got the top spot and where she's heading next. My hope is that she likes barbecue.
Yeah, I mean, she certainly has to like barbecue. Is that right? I have to say that this is the first year in many years that the #1 pick in the draft was not necessarily a given. She was definitely among the favorites. So it wasn't a surprise, but it was nice to see. You know, she's just a dynamic spark plug of a player from UConn, one of the purest shooters in the game, finished her career with the top free throw percentage in UConn history, 3-point shooter, also averaged more than 3 steals per game. And this is an exciting pick, not just for Dallas, but also personally for AZ. She will reunite with Paige Beckers, who was the #1 pick from last year, the face of the franchise, also from UConn. They won a national championship together last year, and they are also, of course, dating. So smiles all around on that #1 pick.
Yeah, no kidding. And here's the thing about that. So Fudd's salary is actually going to be 6 times greater than Paige Beckers, who's also, as you mentioned, on the wings. That's thanks to this new collective bargaining agreement. Talk about some of the key takeaways from the deal that was just reached and how it's just impacting other players' checks this year as well.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the difference in just the rookie salary. So the #1 pick, you know, as you said, Paige Beckers got about $78,000 last year. Now AZ will get $500,000. The new league minimum is $270,000. That's up 4 times from what it was last year. Average salaries are going to be $600,000, and the supermax is $1.4 million. So we've seen this free agency frenzy since the CBA was struck, and we finally have a lot of very well-deserving millionaire women in the WNBA.
As good as UConn is, they weren't the winners this year. UCLA, of course, the winners of this year's women's tournament. They made history at last night's draft. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, a record 6 players drafted overall, 5 in the first round. That is also a record. You know, Lauren Betts was picked #4 by the Washington Mystics, and then the Bruins just went back to back to back. I think, you know, UCLA Corey Close can obviously point to her program as a marquee program now. She can point to the fact that they just won a national championship. But this is a huge recruiting tool as well, because she can also say that UCLA develops players for the pros, and we are a pipeline to the WNBA.
Plus, you get to live in LA, so there's that too. There's also a major surprise trade in the first round. What went down with that trade?
Yeah, so Golden State had picked Flau'jae Johnson, with the number 8 pick, and they traded her to the Seattle Storm for the draft rights to Martha Suarez and a 2028 second-round pick. This was a bit of a surprise. They had apparently agreed to the trade before the draft, before Flau'jae was actually picked. But the Storm needed depth in the backcourt. They lost Skylar Diggins in this free agency frenzy to Chicago, so it is actually a trade that ultimately makes sense.
What excites you most about this upcoming WNBA season, especially now that we've seen who the top draft picks are?
I mean, we've seen quite a bit of movement because of the free agency frenzy that I mentioned. I'm gonna stay a little bit with the hometown team and see. I'm very excited to see what the Liberty actually do. You know, they were plagued with injuries last year trying to defend their title. They have built a super team now, especially with the addition of Satou Sabally. And will be under a new coach. But I'm also excited to see what these expansion teams do. You know, the Toronto Tempo and Portland. Because, you know, we had the Golden State Valkyries completely overachieving last year, and now we'll see just what the future of this WNBA league looks like.
Very exciting times. Kavitha Davidson, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Good to see you. Up next, a new tool putting the AI in diary. Up next in our weekly check-in, a look at how new journaling technology could help you process your emotions. Stay with us. This is Morning News Now. Time now for our weekly mental health check-in. This week, we're looking at how decluttering at the start of a new season, like spring, can be mentally refreshing. Plus, we're getting an expert's view on the trend of cuddle therapy. Joining us this week, Dr. George James, a licensed therapist and the author of I Give Myself Permission. Dr. James, always good to have you with us. So let's start with spring cleaning. We hear about it every year. On the surface, it's a chore. Might sound overwhelming, but some say it can boost our mood and our sense of control. So tell us, how can decluttering actually help improve our mental health, and how can we make the process less stressful?
Yeah, good morning, Joe. Yes, definitely spring cleaning can be one of those things that does feel like a chore, but it does allow us to feel like we are doing something. Sometimes just having your space be in order can allow your mood to be better, can feel great. Like you said, can allow you to feel like you have an accomplishment. You also want to maybe start off in a way that helps you start early, maybe break it into chunks, but you want to keep going and get to the place where you feel good. Maybe start one room and work your way throughout. It also can allow you to just feel like I did this and now I can do something else, which boosts your mood and your energy and can feel great.
It really is one of the best feelings in the world when you do it. You have a whole room done and you just get to enjoy it and just sit there and stare at it. All right, let's look at how a lot of people are turning to AI journaling tools for emotional support. These tools give you a response to what you write, or maybe prompts for what to write about. We know the benefits of just basic journaling. Are there risks when you add AI to the process?
Yeah, this is a very interesting thing. We've seen AI show up in so many ways, and here it is with journaling. It can help you to process your feelings. Like as you journal, it can give you some thoughts and reflections, and sometimes that could be good. Maybe you didn't really think about it, or it can make connections that you didn't even know about. The struggle with it is that maybe you don't want to have an understanding for everything you journal. Sometimes you just want to be able to express yourself. The other concern is around privacy and how is it protected. Once again, it's something that you can try out, but also sometimes you don't need AI for everything. Sometimes you just journal on your own, and that could also be helpful and therapeutic.
No doubt. All right, this last one is going to divide people. It's about cuddle therapy, which is getting a lot of attention online. You actually book a session with a so-called professional cuddler. This is described as a consensual, non-sexual hug in a safe environment. Some say it helps with depression, anxiety, and loneliness. I'm skeptical. If you're considering this, what should you know? Is it easy to find someone reputable?
This is one of those things I learned actually more throughout the pandemic. As more people were feeling lonely and isolated, this became something that people can reach out to. It is one of those things where I think we recognize that we want to be touched in a non-sexual way. We want to be hugged. We want to feel connected. And people, you can look up folks and find them. I think like this is a place where I'd probably want you to also find a friend or a loved one to be able to express this. But if you feel like you can't do that, this is a place where you can do that. There's no science behind it, but there is something that we do know, that sometimes just that embrace can make us feel a little bit better. So do your research. test it out, but also let your friends and family know that maybe you could use a hug as well.
That's the best hug you want to get anyway from your friends and family. All right, Dr. George James, good to have you with us. Thank you so much. That is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. Stay with us. The news continues right now. Good morning, I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is on assignment right now on Morning News Now. Now in effect, the U.S. military keeping a close eye on the Strait of Hormuz this morning, a day after beginning a blockade of Iranian ports. An American-sanctioned Chinese tanker, the first to make its way through the waterway after President Trump vowed to cut off the trade route. This comes as the U.S. and Iran continue peace talks. We are watching the latest events and the impact back home with oil prices slightly lower this morning. Growing backlash, President Trump facing more criticism over this now deleted social media post. It shows an AI image which he denies is depicting him as Jesus. Mr. Trump also refusing to apologize to Pope Leo over comments about the war in Iran.
Pope Leo said things that are wrong. He was very much against what I'm doing with regard to Iran, and you cannot have a nuclear Iran. Pope Leo would not be happy with the end result.
The latest ahead from Washington. Also this morning, a major study shedding light on the effects of fluoride in drinking water. The research finding the mineral has no effect on brain function, contradicting claims by Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. We're going to break down the results as several states press forward with moves to ban water fluoridation. And surging surcharges. If it feels like whenever you use your credit card, you're being charged a fee, it's not totally your imagination. Businesses big and small adding to your final total to make up for rising costs. We're going to share some tips on what you can do to avoid paying these fees. Let's begin this hour with the latest on the tense situation in the Middle East. This morning, a Chinese tanker was the first of 2 U.S.-sanctioned ships to pass through the Strait of Hormuz since the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports began just over 24 hours ago. Comes as China ramped up its criticism of the U.S. action in Iran, calling the blockade dangerous and irresponsible. Iran's armed forces also accused the U.S. of piracy. The U.S. operation began after peace talks between the U.S. and Iran in Pakistan failed this past weekend. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel joins us now from Tel Aviv, Israel, with the next steps in those ceasefire discussions. Richard, good morning.
This has been a moving target with apocalyptic threats from President Trump, a fragile ceasefire that for now is still holding, and now this new partial blockade on Iranian ports. But as of this morning, it seems like ceasefire negotiations could resume soon.
As a flotilla of U.S. warships impose a blockade of Iranian ports and prevent Iran from exporting oil, there are growing signs this morning the U.S. and Iran may be open to more negotiations.
They would like to work a deal.
The last round of direct talks between Iran and Vice President Vance ended in Pakistan last weekend without an agreement. Last night, Vance suggested more talks are possible.
I really think the ball is in the Iranian court because we put a lot on the table.
Pakistan has proposed hosting a second round of talks in Islamabad in the coming days before a 2-week ceasefire announced by President Trump expires a week from today, according to the Associated Press, which cited 2 Pakistani officials. Iran's nuclear program is the main sticking point, according to multiple U.S. and Iranian officials. Iran insists it must maintain its ability to enrich locally mined uranium for domestic use. The U.S. and the International Atomic Energy Agency say Iran has been enriching uranium to much higher levels than required for peaceful purposes alone. There are pressures on both sides. The Iranian government is proving resilient, not collapsing as President Trump predicted it quickly would. Thousands of pro-government supporters rallied in Tehran last night. But the public displays can't hide the fact that Iran's military and leaders are under serious strain. For Trump, there's pressure from high gas prices and maintaining an expensive blockade that European allies so far refuse to join.
And it's not clear if Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is through with his war against Iran and its allies, in particular Lebanon. Peace talks are scheduled to take place today in Washington between the Lebanese government and Israeli officials. Hezbollah is encouraging Lebanon not to attend.
All right, Richard, thank you. President Trump says he will not apologize to Pope Leo after attacking the head of the Catholic Church for criticizing the Iran war. Comes as the White House deleted a controversial post from the president's social media page overnight. It featured this AI-generated image, which appears to depict President Trump as Jesus. NBC News senior White House correspondent Garrett Haake joins me now with more on all this. Garrett, good morning.
There's a lot going on there, Joe, and the combination of these two self-generated controversies quickly created significant backlash for the president, including from his typically faithful political base. The president confessing to having posted that AI-generated image, but attempting to explain away its meaning, all while he argues that on politics, the Pope is simply, quote, wrong. President Trump facing fierce bipartisan criticism this morning on two fronts: his attacks on Pope Leo and his social media post of an AI-generated image appearing to depict himself as Jesus. The president acknowledging he posted the image that was taken down Monday afternoon, offering this interpretation of the picture.
I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor and had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker. It's supposed to be me as a doctor making people better, and I do make people better.
Democrats mocking that explanation.
Then he's lost his grasp on reality, and that's even more concerning.
While the vice president said it was a joke.
I think the president was posting a joke, and of course he took it down because he recognized that a lot of people weren't understanding his humor.
The backlash swift from the president's typically faithful MAGA base. One prominent Christian commentator condemning the post as, quote, outrageous blasphemy, while Trump ally Riley Gaines posting, a little humility would serve him well, and God shall not be mocked. The president's post coming shortly after his tirade against Pope Leo, accusing the head of the Catholic Church of being, quote, weak on crime and terrible for foreign policy, including for his criticism of the Iran war.
I'm not a big fan of Pope Leo.
Yesterday, while speaking to reporters outside the Oval Office, where he received a staged fast food delivery to promote his no tax on tips policy, the president also asked if he owes the Pope an apology.
No, I don't, because Pope Leo said things that are wrong. He was very much against what I'm doing with regard to Iran, and you cannot have a nuclear Iran.
The Pope earlier telling NBC News aboard the papal plane,
I have no fear of neither the Trump administration nor speaking out loudly about the message of the gospel.
North Carolina Republican Tom Tillis is one of 24 Catholics in the Senate.
It's never really a good look for politicians to cross swords with popes. Very seldom ends well.
And then there's Vice President Vance, who recently wrote a book about his own conversion to Catholicism. He attempted to diffuse this controversy between the president and the Pope, saying in an interview last night that the administration, of course, will disagree with the Vatican on some issues. He added that the Pope should, quote, stick to matters of what's going on in the Catholic Church and let the president dictate American public policy. Joe?
All right, Garrett, thank you so much. On Capitol Hill, disturbing allegations of sexual misconduct are echoing throughout the halls of Congress. And now a pair of lawmakers from both sides of the aisle say they are planning to step down. NBC News chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles joins me now with more on these high-profile resignations. Ryan, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. And let's start with Congressman Eric Swalwell, who is staring down the possibility of an intense ethics investigation and potential expulsion. So he essentially fired himself before his colleagues could. The congressman saying he is stepping down to avoid becoming a distraction, even as he vows to fight the most serious claims against him. We do want to warn you that some of the details of these accusations are disturbing.
This morning, the fallout from two high-profile scandals on Capitol Hill. Republican Representative Tony Gonzalez and Democrat Eric Swalwell both announcing their departures from Congress yesterday. Swalwell, a California representative and a staple of the House for 13 years, officially resigning after multiple allegations of sexual misconduct from at least 4 women. The 45-year-old married father of 3 writing on X, "I am deeply sorry to my family, staff, and constituents for mistakes in judgment I've made in my past. I will fight this serious false allegation made against me. However, I must take responsibility and ownership for the mistakes I did make." The allegations range from inappropriate text messages to sexual assault. One former staffer claiming Swalwell assaulted her in a Manhattan hotel room. NBC News has verified the woman worked for Swalwell, though her attorney declined to provide any comment. The incident is now under investigation by the Manhattan District Attorney. Another accuser, Democrat influencer Alisa Marco, telling NBC News Swalwell offered to help her get a job on Capitol Hill when she was 24, then started sending her nude messages over Snapchat. Samarco called Swalwell's decision to resign the right thing to do.
And I don't think those women in his office or on Capitol Hill in general should be around him for one more day.
NBC News has not independently corroborated the other woman's allegations. Before Friday's allegations, Swalwell was a top polling Democratic candidate for California governor.
I'm running to be the next governor of California.
Across the aisle, Gonzalez announcing his retirement overnight. The married father of 6 had previously admitted to an affair with a staffer who later died by suicide.
I made a mistake and I had a lapse in judgment.
Gonzalez already planned on leaving after this term.
And the accusations against Swalwell and potential legal problems are not slowing down. Today, yet another woman is expected to come forward with what her attorneys say are, quote, serious misconduct allegations. She plans to describe her claims at a press conference later today. Joe.
All right, Ryan, thank you. There is fresh fallout this morning stemming from the Trump administration's immigration crackdown in Minnesota. You might remember video of an ICE arrest back in January. Officers can be seen bashing open the front door of a St. Paul man's home before bringing him outside at gunpoint. He was wearing just his underwear and a blanket in freezing conditions. Well, now officials in Ramsey County say they are investigating the arrest as a potential case of kidnapping, burglary, and false imprisonment. NBC News senior Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley joins me now with more on this. Julia, good morning. So what more can you tell us about the circumstances surrounding this arrest and what officials are alleging right now in this investigation?
Well, Joe, you just recalled those images that were one of many that were coming out of Minnesota at the time during a surge of both Border Patrol and ICE in January of this year. And of course, when the news came out that this man was an American that ICE had wrongly arrested, we have now heard much more backlash as a result. He is among American. He is an American citizen. And when they took him out of his house when he was obviously not prepared to be leaving his home, there were a lot of questions about what rights ICE had to be entering his home and what precedent that could set for more arrests around the country as ICE started to arrest people who were often not on a list of targeted people with known crimes or known immigration violations, but were suspected to have immigration violations. Now that's kicking up into the latest investigation from the state into those actions by DHS in January. I want you to listen to what the sheriff said about it, and then I'll tell you what DHS is saying.
There are many facts we don't know yet, but there's one that we do know, and that is that Mr. Tao is and has been an American citizen. There's not a dispute over that, and you can ask yourself, as you look at those pictures, is that good law enforcement to take an American citizen out of their home?
And Joe, what DHS is saying about this is that it was not a kidnapping. They're saying that, in fact, this was a case where they had information based on intelligence and surveillance that there was known sexual predators around his property and that they went to the property to try to arrest someone else. And when he was not available or when he did not produce identification or submit to a Face ID scan, that was a technology they were using at the time, they had no choice but to arrest him and take them in. So some harsh pushback. Very hard pushback from DHS on this case, calling it a kidnapping, and obviously knowing that if this is determined to be a kidnapping or burglary of some sort, that could open the door to a lot of legal action over other actions DHS took. Because remember, at the time, and this continues today, they said they do not need a judicial warrant to arrest someone who has a removal order from the country.
And Julia, this is just evidence of the tensions that played out between federal and local officials in the wake of this immigration operation in Minnesota. We know last month officials in Hennepin County, that includes Minneapolis, sued the administration over access to evidence in the investigations of 3 shootings by federal officers, 2 of which were fatal, got a lot of coverage. Catch us up on where those probes into those killings stand and just the hurdles that state and local officials face in trying to challenge the federal government to get involved in these investigations.
Yes, of course. Well, there are the 2 investigations into the fatal shootings of the U.S. citizens. The DHS did begin, but we have not gotten any kind of results from those. And then there's the latest, in which ICE had originally said that there was an officer whose life was threatened because he was being pursued by a target, by an immigrant they were trying to arrest, and that he was hit with a shovel, with a snow shovel. And then later surveillance video came out to show that was not the case. In fact, it was the ICE officer pursuing the individual, and those ICE officers have now been put on leave, and ICE says that they could be charged criminally. But in March, in late March, Hennepin County sued DHS to get more evidence. They say that the federal investigators are not being cooperative to hand over evidence, and that they don't like that the FBI has taken over these investigations. Typically, Joe, when you have a use of force, use of deadly force, and the feds are involved, whether it's use of force by a local person or by a federal agent, there's a lot of cooperation between local law enforcement and federal as they get to the bottom of what happened. It's a way to hold both law enforcement sides accountable, no matter who is the one involved, and to have extra checks and balances as they review surveillance videos and look into the policies that could have been violated. And what Minneapolis, what Hennepin County is saying is that the feds simply are not letting them come in and be partners in these investigations now.
All right. Julia Ainsley, thanks for your reporting. Let's head over to California. We're learning more about an alarming attack on the home of one of the biggest names in tech, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman. This morning, a Texas man is in custody charged with attempted murder after allegedly throwing a Molotov cocktail at Altman's house. NBC News national correspondent Morgan Chesky joins us with more on this. Morgan, good morning.
Yeah, Joe, good morning. And authorities sharing some troubling new details here, saying that this man drove from Texas to California to carry out this alleged attack. And they also shared the threats that he made, chilling ones, as he tried to break inside the San Francisco headquarters of OpenAI.
This was not spontaneous. This was planned, targeted, and extremely serious.
This morning, authorities say these disturbing surveillance images show suspect Daniel Moreno Gama clutching a flaming Molotov cocktail. He's accused of hurling the explosive device at the California home of OpenAI CEO Sam Altman.
Someone threw a Molotov cocktail / sticky bomb.
The 20-year-old set to be arraigned today on multiple state charges, including attempted murder and possession of a deadly weapon. He's also facing a number of federal charges. FBI agents raided Moreno Gama's home outside Houston early Monday. Authorities say he traveled from Texas to California to attack Altman's residence last Friday, setting a driveway gate on fire. According to the criminal complaint, the suspect then went to OpenAI's San Francisco headquarters, where they say Moreno Gama retrieved a chair and used it to strike the glass doors. And according to security personnel on site, stated he was there to burn it down and kill anyone inside. Altman, the head of one of the world's most influential AI companies, posting this image of his family, stating he hopes it might dissuade the next person from throwing a Molotov cocktail at our house, no matter what they think about me. When police arrested the suspect at OpenAI's headquarters, they say he had a multi-page document sharing views opposed to artificial intelligence, as well as a list of multiple executives at AI companies, and also advocated for violence against people working on AI, writing in part, "I must lead by example."
Let me be clear. We will not tolerate the individuals coming into our areas of responsibility to carry out acts of violence. You will be identified, investigated, and brought to justice.
Now, this morning, federal prosecutors say that this attack could be treated as an act of domestic terrorism. Meanwhile, the San Francisco District Attorney's Office says that the suspect should be arraigned later today on the state charges. And, Joe, those alone carry 19 years up to life in prison here. Joe.
All right. Morgan, thank you so much. A major new study on fluoride is contradicting claims by Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The study followed more than 10,000 people from their teen years to their 80s to determine if fluoride in drinking water impacted their intelligence and their brain development, and found the mineral has no negative effect on brain function. NBC News health and medical reporter Erica Edwards joins me now with more on this. Erica, good morning. So Kennedy has described fluoride as industrial waste and linked it to IQ loss. What did this research find? And tell us more just about how the study was conducted.
Hey, Joe, good morning. This was a highly anticipated study, one of the biggest in the U.S. to follow so many people for so long. More than 10,000 people in Wisconsin took IQ tests at age 16, then took cognitive testing all the way through age 80. And researchers found there was no difference in the outcomes of people who had fluoridated water growing up and those who did not. They all had similar levels of intelligence and brain power. Joe?
When it comes to this study, walk us through, were there any limitations to this study? Just what's important for people to understand here?
There was one important caveat. The researchers could not go back in time to measure the exact levels of fluoride people had in their bodies growing up, so they had to rely on the next best thing, educated guesses based on where people grew up and whether they had access to fluoridated waters or untreated wells. Joe?
So some in the Trump administration have recently sort of backed off this demonizing of fluoride. And last month, the acting CDC director called it essential for oral health. How have officials responded to this new study?
Lukewarm at best, I would say. I asked an HHS official about this, who pointed me to previous studies linking very high fluoride exposures and possible impacts on cognitive development. They also said that fluoride's primary benefit is topical, right? So toothpaste, mouthwashes, things like that, and that there are still unanswered questions about ingesting fluoride through drinking water. Joe?
So fluoridated water is widely known to reduce tooth decay by around a quarter, yet several states we know actively trying to ban using the mineral in their community water systems. I know you've been speaking with experts about this topic. In your reporting, what are they saying are the long-term health risks of not having fluoride in our drinking water?
Yeah, you know, this goes well beyond just preventing cavities that can be fixed in a dentist's office. One of the main reasons kids miss school is because of tooth pain, experts say. And left unchecked, that decay can move around in the body and cause infections elsewhere. Long-term tooth decay has been linked to diabetes, heart disease, stroke, Joe, even dementia.
All right, Erica Edwards, thank you for your reporting on this. Time now for weather. Record high temperatures and the risk of severe storms threatening some states this morning. Angie Lastman is here with the details. So, Angie, what can we expect?
Hi there, Joe. Good morning to you. We can expect to turn the AC on in some spots, and we can also expect some strong storms for a couple of folks here as we get through at least the next few days. Here's what we've got right now. A much quieter morning across Michigan, but look back to the west across Illinois. You can see some thunderstorms there. Chicago getting in on this action this morning. And we'll see a whole lot more folks kind of being impacted by those storms as we get into the second half of our day. We're watching this frontal boundary. It's kind of stationary in this area, so you'll notice that that's where we'll really see things ramp up with the warm temperatures, the instability. All of that are the ingredients that we need to see some of these thunderstorms later today. So if you live Chicago to Cedar Rapids, that's the spot you want to watch for the best chance to see some of those stronger storms. But really, anywhere from Michigan all the way down to Texas, you have that chance. The tornadoes, the hail, the winds, all on the table. Tomorrow, an additional day of severe weather. This time, we'll see some of those morning thunderstorms across the Great Lakes, but then we'll ramp things up into the afternoon and into the early evening. We'll really see the peak of those thunderstorms, and you can see, again, from the Midwest down to the plains, hail, damaging winds, tornadoes, all on the table. On the other hand, we've also got some really warm temperatures. 135 million people are running way above normal. We're talking at least 15 degrees above normal for this time of year. It's a very expansive area, really the whole eastern half of the country. And we've got a whole lot of potential record highs over the next 3 days, potentially 100 record highs. You can see they stretch from the northeast down to the southeast, out towards parts of the Midwest. This is going to leave us with the potential also to see an all-time April record broken broken in a whole lot of spots as well. So where does that put our temperatures? Well, into the 80s for a lot of folks. 88 for Nashville today, 80 for Chicago, 87 in Philadelphia, 89 for Norfolk. A lot of these locations going to be flirting with 90 here over at least the next 2 days. Notice Pittsburgh, 87 degrees. New York City tomorrow, sweltering as well for this time of year, 86. Chicago ends up into those mid-70s. And kind of as we get into late week, we'll see that mid-Atlantic heat really ramp up. So Thursday in Roanoke, 90. And we kind of stay around those upper 80s to low 90s across that region, Joe, all the way through the beginning part of our weekend.
I'm trying to strategize here because I don't have air conditioning yet. They haven't flipped it yet, and there's heat, and so we'll have to kind of
think cool thoughts, or open your freezer, put your head in for a second. I don't know. Sometimes I resort to that.
I'll just sleep in the freezer. Yes, thanks, Angie.
Don't sleep there.
Don't sleep there.
This is not medical advice.
Put my head in it. Thank you, Angie. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Much more to come here on Morning News Now later this hour. They're becoming harder to avoid. Extra fees charged to cover rising costs or just for using your credit card. So we're going to share some tips on what to be on the lookout for. Up first, the man at the center of that missing persons case in the Bahamas released from custody. We'll tell you why, though, the husband of the missing woman is not in the clear. We are back with some new developments in the case of an American woman who disappeared in the Bahamas. She vanished over a week ago after allegedly falling overboard while out at sea. Her husband, who was taken into police custody, was released last night, but authorities say he is still considered a suspect. NBC's Jesse Kirsch has the latest from the Bahamas. Jesse, good morning.
Brian Hooker walked out of that police station yesterday without answering any reporters' questions before he got into a car with his lawyer. All we heard him say was, "Excuse me," 2 different times. Meanwhile, the police commissioner here in the Bahamas tells me that it is fair to say that Hooker is still considered a suspect in this case, adding that investigators will search as long as possible for his wife, Lynette.
Brian, anything to say? This morning, Brian Hooker is a free man. Late Monday, the 58-year-old American walking out of this Bahamian police station after spending roughly 5 days in custody.
Brian, what do you want to tell people who think you're responsible for your wife's disappearance?
Brian, anything to say? Hooker's release coming after his legal team waited hours to see if he would be charged in connection with the disappearance of his wife, Lynette. But his lawyer says a deadline passed without any charges. Hooker claims his wife accidentally fell overboard more than a week ago in rough conditions. When he finally emerged from custody, Hooker made a brief phone call. His lawyer says he spoke to a family member. Did he ask about Lynette?
He just literally walked out, so he hasn't had any time. But throughout the time that he was here, he was asking about her.
Is it fair to say he is still looked at as a suspect in this case?
It is fair to say that, yes.
The commissioner of the Royal Bahamas Police Force telling me by phone that the investigation is far from over.
If he leaves the country and we need to see him again, we do know that our U.S. counterparts will assist us with that. So we will not hamper in any way him leaving the country.
Police say you're still being looked at as a suspect. What do you say to that?
There are also newly revealed text messages shared by fellow boater Marnie Stevenson. They were obtained by CBS News but not verified by NBC News. Lynette Hooker apparently texting Stevenson in 2024 about her marriage, writing, "We decided to call it quits. I'm not going back." Hours later, writing of life on the water, "It was real bad. I can't be out there with him." Stevenson's husband says Brian Hooker sent him these maps after Lynette vanished. They appear to detail the Hooker's fateful dinghy ride, marking the alleged spot where Brian told police Lynette went overboard and where Brian paddled next.
The police commissioner tells me investigators presented their case to the prosecutor's office late yesterday. Ultimately, they decided against any charges for now after not finding any new evidence after finding a flotation device. But the police commissioner tells me that Brian Hooker has not been cleared in this case either. And the commissioner says investigators are still hoping they can find Lynette Hooker. Back to you.
All right, Jesse, thank you. We are following developing news this morning out of Turkey, where a gunman opened fire at a high school, wounding more than a dozen people before turning the gun on himself. NBC's Matt Bodner joins us now to take us around the world in 60 seconds. Good morning, Matt.
Joe, good morning. An 18-year-old former student opened fire, apparently at random, at a vocational high school in Turkey. Officials have confirmed that 16 people were injured in the shooting, that the gunman ultimately took his own life. Most of those wounded were students at the school. There have so far been no reported deaths. Moving along now to Senegal, a court has issued the first conviction under a new law that escalates punishments for homosexuality. The ruling saw a 24-year-old laborer sentenced to 6 years in prison and fined more than $3,000 for, quote, acts against nature and public indecency. This new law also punishes, quote, promotion or financing of homosexuality. We will wrap up this hour in Berlin. This is Lady Fatou. She is the so-called Grand Dame of the Berlin Zoo. As a matter of fact, the Guinness Book of World Records last year certified her as the oldest living gorilla in the world. Yesterday was her 69th birthday. Her story is pretty good. She was smuggled into the port of Marseille in 1959 by a French sailor. The sailor could not pay his bar tab, so he gave the owner his gorilla to make up for it. Eventually, she ended up in Berlin. And if that's not a movie, it should be.
Yeah,
Joe?
absolutely. It's in Berlin. I think we could call it cabaret.
We'll leave it at that.
We'll work on that. I'm going to workshop that. Matt, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, coming up, one of the first accounts of how the war in Iran is taking a toll on our service members. When we come back, we're going to introduce you to an Army engineer injured during Operation Epic Fury. Hear his experience in his own words. You're watching Morning News Now. Back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with an update on President Trump's lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal. NBC News senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor joins me now with the latest headlines. Sahil, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. We begin today in politics with a federal judge dismissing President Trump's $10 billion defamation lawsuit brought against the Wall Street Journal over a story about a bawdy 50th birthday card Trump allegedly sent to Jeffrey Epstein 2 decades ago when they were friends. The judge said Trump's complaint comes nowhere close to proving actual malice, the legal standard required to succeed here. And he says the claim that the news outlet acted with ill will lacks factual support and is irrelevant to the law. Now, the president is no stranger to filing lawsuits against journalists and commentators, a tactic that opponents have described as designed to harass or silence his critics. And nearby, in Virginia, Olivia Troy, a former advisor to Vice President Mike Pence, just announced she's running for Congress as a Democrat. Troy worked on counterterrorism and the COVID response in the Trump White House before leaving in the summer of 2020 and becoming an avid critic of Trump, supporting Joe Biden that year. Her announcement calls her a proud Democrat and MAGA's top enemy. She says she left the White House after seeing staggering evil in it. Now Troy plans to run for a newly drawn House seat in the 7th Congressional District, which stretches from the D.C. suburbs to Harrisburg and the Richmond area. It would be a Democratic-friendly seat if the party's attempt at redistricting ends up succeeding. And finally, the Trump administration has agreed to continue flying a rainbow pride flag at the Stonewall National Monument, backtracking after it removed the LGBTQ rights banner in February. That decision by the government coming as it seeks to settle a lawsuit brought by advocacy groups that push to preserve the symbol, and it's emblematic of a larger struggle between the Trump administration and LGBTQ rights organizations. And that is a look at what's making news in politics this morning. Joe?
All right, Sahil, thank you so much. More than 6 weeks after the war with Iran began, we are starting to hear stories about the toll it's taking on some service members. Major Stephen Ramsbottom, an Army engineer, was injured in Kuwait during Operation Epic Fury while serving as an Army reservist. 6 of his fellow soldiers were killed in an Iranian drone attack on March 1st, with many more injured. Now he's speaking out about the chaos of that day and the reality of coming home. Reporter Brett Forrest from our Colorado Springs affiliate has his story.
I was turned away from the center of the building, and I had a big old monitor in between me and where the blast was.
Major Stephen Ramsbottom describing the moment an Iranian drone attack struck his unit.
I think some shrapnel, like metal, bad shrapnel, hit my monitor and just busted it and shattered it. And then all my wounds were actually from the monitor glass going into my head, which was good because it didn't crack the skull or anything like that.
Calling himself fortunate, an officer helping him up and putting on his helmet in case another attack hit.
Put my helmet on, and I think it helped slide the whatever it was sticking out of my head farther down my neck.
25 service members were wounded in that attack and 6 were killed on just the second day of Operation Epic Fury, Iran's deadliest attack on U.S. forces in the war so far.
Went and started trying to help people, and it was so overwhelmed in the mass casualty situation. Like, we could have been a medical unit and we wouldn't have had enough doctors or medics around.
His 103rd Sustainment Command was based at a Kuwaiti port since September. After spending the first night in bunkers, his unit went back to their desks on March 1st.
We would go to the bunkers when the active threat was there, but this threat didn't get detected, so we didn't go to the bunkers. We were just there working at our desks.
Saying the Russia-Ukraine war has brought a new environment of warfare due to the use of drones. I asked if he felt his unit's location was properly fortified.
Pre-Russia invasion of Ukraine, it was a pretty well-fortified base. But it wasn't well prepared for the type of fight that we were getting into.
After the attack, he says his head wounds were stitched and have healed well, suffering some concussion effects for a few weeks. But evacuating out of Kuwait not immediate, as they flew more seriously wounded out first.
I was basically just hiding out, for a week and a half, 2 weeks, until they got room on a plane for us. So they actually strapped us to the floor of the plane because they used up all the seats.
Describing a process breakdown as injured service members in his unit were flown first to Germany and then Fort Hood in Texas.
Because everything was so broken, a lot of the medical paperwork didn't get transferred. So we had people who, should have probably still been in a hospital in Kuwait under ideal conditions, who were just being moved with us, getting thrown on planes and flown around the world. And it kind of shocked all the medical communities everywhere we landed.
Wanting this deadly attack and his experience to be a lesson for future military operations.
Hopefully, another group won't have to go through what we went through on not getting the care they needed right away.
Thanks to Brett Forrest for that report. Major Ramsbottom also spoke about the lack of counseling he says he received after the attack, hoping to bring more support to troops. Last week, he was honored by Colorado community members for his service and his dedication. Coming up, growing pushback from some powerful voices over Paramount's efforts to merge with Warner Brothers Discovery. Up next, we're going to share the concerns that hundreds of professionals in the entertainment industry are expressing over that pending merger. Stay with us. Welcome back. From restaurants to retailers, those extra fees when it comes time to open up your wallet are becoming harder to avoid. A new report shows surcharges are popping up in more places, often catching customers off guard. NBC News Chief Consumer Investigative Correspondent Vicki Nguyen has more. Vicki, good morning.
Hey there. For businesses big and small, adding a surcharge is often a straightforward way to make up for rising costs without constantly changing prices, which consumers often notice right away. But these days, some say these extra fees feel like an attack on affordability at every turn. If it feels like whenever you open your wallet or tap your card, a surcharge awaits, it's not your imagination.
If there's a 4% fee to use my credit card and it's a convenience fee, bro, that's not convenient.
An extra 5% or more. The possibilities are seemingly endless.
It's the overall perception that we don't even care about our money and they're just going to take it.
And while reading the fine print can occasionally help shoppers from unwanted costs,
there does seem to be a lot of
A new Wall Street Journal report says surcharges are getting tougher to avoid.
Airlines are adding them onto luggage. They're popping up at restaurant when you go to pay with a credit card or as a wellness surcharge for employees. They're even showing up for your rental housing.
A growing number of retailers and package delivery companies are attributing them to rising fuel costs. A 2026 study from J.D. Power found more than 1/3 of small businesses now include surcharges for credit card payments. But those do come with a gamble. 32% of places that surcharge say customers occasionally or frequently cancel a purchase when the charge appears.
Is there something that feels sneaky about a surcharge because of when it shows up in the transaction?
Consumers tend not to be that angry about surcharges or fees that are disclosed at the very beginning.
For many businesses, a small surcharge helps keep prices stable, like at Lavery Brewing Company in downtown Erie, Pennsylvania.
Material costs are going up, labor costs are going up, insurance costs are going up. I did not want to raise our prices.
The brewery's president, Jason Lavery, says the average tab is about $29, which carries an 87-cent surcharge for using a credit card.
We communicate with our customers. We put up signage. We updated the receipt paper so everybody knew if you pay with credit card, this is what your actual bill will be.
So what can you do about these surcharges? You can actually carry cash to avoid that 3 to 4% credit card fee that some businesses are charging. When it comes to those checked bag fees, try to pay in advance online. That will help you avoid higher costs at the airport. And take note if there is a surcharge that you don't like. You can try and shop alternate retailers or write a note to customer service to complain. Over time, that feedback can make a difference. Back to you.
All right, Vicki, thank you so much. Now to more money headlines. The newest members of the WNBA are entering a new pay era. NBC News business and economy reporter Allie Canal is here with your Money Minute. Allie, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Quite the payday here for women's basketball. The WNBA draft class of 2026, it's set to be the highest paid ever, with top pick AZ Fudd out of UConn heading to the Dallas Wings. And guess what? She's set to earn about $500,000 in her rookie season. Now, this comes after a new labor deal was signed last month and marks a massive jump from the roughly $78,000 Paige Beckers made as last year's top pick. And from the court to the delivery door, President Trump making headlines, tipping a DoorDash driver $100 after a McDonald's delivery to the Oval Office. And it comes to the administration rolls out new guidance on its no tax on tips policy. The IRS says workers can deduct up to $25,000 in tips from federal income taxes, but will still owe payroll taxes like Social Security and Medicare. The tax break also phases out for higher earners. That's defined as those making over $150,000 for individuals, and it doesn't apply to automatic service fees. So it's not totally tax-free in practice. And finally, a freebie to sweeten up your day. Ben & Jerry's is bringing back its annual free cone day, offering customers a free scoop at participating shops today. The company says there's no limit as it looks to drive foot traffic and brand buzz with one of the biggest promo events of the year. You can check out its website for participating locations. And don't worry, Joe, do the investigative journalism for us.
Yes.
The 30 Rock location.
Yes.
You can get a freebie.
You can.
Although sources tell me it's going to be madness.
It could be madness. Also, no limit. That's like a buffet, like an ice cream buffet.
I know. It's really dangerous. I'm really worried for myself walking home, passing all the Ben & Jerry's today.
I'll see you there later. All right.
Yes.
Thanks, Allie. Appreciate it. A collection of creative forces in Hollywood is pushing back on Paramount Skydance's attempted takeover of Warner Brothers Discovery. More than 1,400 actors, filmmakers, and professionals across the entertainment industry signed an open letter yesterday. They're opposing the pending merger. They claim the consolidation of the two companies will result in fewer jobs, higher costs, and less production. For more on this, I'm joined now by entertainment journalist, pop culture expert, and friend of the show, Brian Balthazar. Brian, good to have you with us. No surprise, Jane Fonda, one of the bold-faced names who helped spearhead this letter. She said the merger would be, quote, one of the most destructive threats to free speech and creative expression in our history. What else does this letter say? Who are some of the other prominent people who've signed on?
Well, some of the other prominent people include Bryan Cranston, Glenn Close, Ilana Glazer, Pedro Pascal, and now they're opposing a deal that could result in a company that would control two major movie studios, two news networks, or two news divisions, and two streaming services. They're saying that this would result, as you said, in fewer opportunities for creators, fewer jobs, and we've seen that already happen in other mergers. And of course, this is going to result in fewer competing platforms, which could then result in higher prices for consumers.
Yeah,
now, the counter to that is that then those platforms could actually have more content, so that raise in price may be justified to some degree. But they're really concerned about the amount of content, and we're seeing already that some of this is already happening. There are fewer movies out in theaters, and there are fewer jobs, particularly in the Los Angeles area.
You can't avoid the politics here. The chief of Paramount Skydance is David Ellison. That's the son of Oracle founder, ally of President Trump, Larry Ellison. How's the company, first of all, responding to this open letter?
They're responding with addressing the fact that they realize that there is concern, but they are promising that they're going to release 30 studio films this year, in the upcoming year, and also that they're going to, here's the quote here, we hear and understand the concerns that some in our creative community have raised and respect the commitment to protecting and expanding creativity. Again, like I said, they're going to promise more theatrical releases. And they really want to create a company, as they say, that can greenlight more projects, back bold ideas, because their creators and producers are concerned that you're not going to see as many of those lower budget or mid-range films like romantic comedies. You're going to only see these big blockbusters. But Paramount Skydance is saying that they're going to make more opportunities for those things, and for actors and actresses at various and all stages of their careers will be able to thrive. I thought that was an interesting note that they're saying at all stages of their careers.
Yeah, the U.S. Department of Justice, of course, we know is still reviewing the merger on antitrust grounds. And then you've got in the U.K., there's an antitrust watchdog announcing plans to launch a formal investigation into just how the merger would affect Britain's film industry. So what's at stake if this is approved? And could that U.K. investigation impact a deal here in the U.S.?
Well, it could. I mean, the Competition and Markets Authority is much like the organizational structure we have in the U.S. And what could happen is, obviously, Paramount Skydance wants both to go through, because it's very expensive to have to negotiate this kind of nuanced deal if you have to renegotiate different restrictions in the U.K. So if it doesn't go through in the U.K., they do have the option of abandoning the deal entirely, or letting the U.S. deal close and then subsequently renegotiating the U.K. to have certain carve-outs or restrictions that make it feasible. But it's costly to do that. So Paramount Skydance is obviously hoping to have both of these go through so they can have a global deal in place.
All right, Brian, good to have you with us. Thank you so much. Coming up, the Miami coastline is among the most scenic in the U.S., and it's partly thanks to the efforts of one Florida man. Up next, we're going to tell you about his 8-year labor of love. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're ending this hour with a labor of love out of South Florida. For close to a decade, one man has single-handedly worked to clean up Miami's coastline. Each week, he dives into the mangroves, picking up everything from microwaves to mattresses. NBC's George Solis joined him on a recent outing.
When you talk about a labor of love, this is it right here. Andrew Otaso doesn't get a dime from his efforts, but he's out there at least once a week cleaning things up from the mangroves you can't even imagine. And we're not talking a few pounds here, we're talking tons.
We have a trash bag, then we have a bucket, and over there is a boat bumper. So it's all got to go.
You could say Andrew Otaso likes his trash talk.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, literal toilet seat.
Finding it too in these mangroves. Vital tropical wetland forests along Miami's barrier islands, often at his own risk.
Just made a hole in my pants.
Not the place you'd expect to find an award-winning author and public relations professional, but it's where he spent his free time these last 8 years and counting.
Oh, here's another tire.
In many ways, growing up alongside the shoreline.
It started when I was a kid. It started with me exploring the mangroves and really falling in love with the environment.
Growing horrified by what he'd been seeing.
It looked like a landfill. It was just plastic covering everything. And eventually I got so fed up with it.
His mission? Clean up the mangroves, one piece of trash at a time. To date, he's single-handedly picked, scooped, and bagged more than 37,000 pounds of junk.
If I inspire people, I want to inspire them to clean up in their own neighborhoods.
Even running a marathon with a bag of trash he collected one year.
When you're not out here, I mean, are you always just thinking about trash?
Yes, I do think about trash a whole lot. It'll literally keep me up, strategizing how I'm gonna get a seemingly impossible piece of trash out of the mangrove.
And in this rugged environment, you sometimes just have to keep things light.
You've found a lot of weird stuff out here. Just rattle off some of the weirdest things you found.
Some of the weirdest things I've found are a quinceañera dress, a virtual reality headset, convection ovens, microwave ovens, a whole kitchen stove, a 220-pound tractor-trailer tire.
Bottom line,
there's only trash out here.
In a way, isn't that the treasure?
The treasure is the friends we made along the way.
Andrew says all this, a direct result of littering, a claim backed by environmental organizations and agencies like NOAA.
It comes from the city. And what happens is that people will litter on the side of the road. When it rains, all that trash goes into the storm drains. There's no filtration whatsoever.
Andrew says all that trash eventually makes its way into the ocean and onto coastlines, the beach, or in the mangroves.
Like a linen shirt?
Seemingly an endless and futile task. But he's compelled to document every step of the way to educate people on the scale of the problem.
I will do this for as long as I can, as long as I need to.
We join Andrew on this particular day deep in the mangroves of Virginia Key, where he spent most of last year.
I have picked up every single inch of this coastline.
Work not for the faint of heart.
This is the spot. This is the spot. We're gonna go down this 45-foot hill. It's very steep. We're gonna have to scramble down it.
Our mission.
There it is.
An old mattress that wedged itself just above the roots. The goal, keep it out of the water.
Walk over the roots. This is the full body workout.
After a minor setback.
Oh, no. We gotta get that out of the water.
We get the mattress up the hill. Our reward, one of the best views in all of Miami before the final weigh-in.
That's 200 pounds. Exactly what I said it would be.
Even closer to a goal.
I'm sure it would be a great joy to maybe one day bring your children or family.
And not see trash. Yes.
Well, worth the effort.
This is a labor of love.
Yeah, this, if you don't love this, there's no way you keep doing it.
Suddenly rolling the trash down to the curb doesn't seem so bad, does it? Now, in between all his efforts, Andrew says he's now working on a new book appropriately called Mangrove Man, where he details some of his cleanups over the last decade, including some of the crazier things he's seen out there. Back to you.
All right, George, thank you. That'll do it for this hour of Morning News Now. Stick with us. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.